What will happen if you lose hope in life? What will happen if the same thing happens to your loved one? Jungmei Junwoo just recently lost her Chinese immigrant mother, Su Yan. Her mother's three best friends, An Mei, Lindo, and Ying Ying, want Jingmei to take her place in the club Su Yan created called the Joy Luck Club, where they all share stories while playing mahjong. Behind each mother there is a backstory, and behind each backstory there are lessons to be learned. Through memories, the four mothers look back at their thick and thin times in the 1910s in Hong Kong and Shanghai, China, and how they escaped their harsh reality to live in a better world in San Francisco years later. So-Yan abandoned her twin girls in China. An Mei, whose mother disgraced her family, Lindo, trapped by a forced love marriage, and Ying Ying, love blinded by an adulterer. However, can their American daughters, Jingmei, Rose, Waverly, and Lena, take their own current hardship and learn from their mother's past stories? Or are they repeating the same mistakes that their mothers had made? Find out in the Joy Luck Club how the mothers and daughters work together to solve their problems, and how they show the themes of love between mother and daughter, how they put their differences aside to understand each other, and the advices the mothers offer to their daughters' problems, and the themes of learning from the past mistakes, about how each mother regret what happened in their life and do not want their daughters to go through the same hardships as they went through, and the journey to find their identity and presence in their culture. Find out why it is so hard for the American daughters to understand their Chinese mother's views on life, and how their different cultures clash. How the mothers want their daughters to have both the American and Chinese culture. What their daughters think is right is not what the mothers want.
The five topics that we'll be looking at in the Joy Luck Club are symbolism, archetypes, imagery and figurative language, rhetorical languages and devices, and the style of writing. So, to start off with symbolism, some symbolism found in the Joy Luck Club is the Golden Gate Bridge and the American flag. What this symbolizes is they're coming to America in search for a better life and to a lesser extent the American dream. This is so as to say that the characters believe they'll begin life anew in America, and through hard work and their merits, they'll be able to get through any challenges that come through their way and end up prospering as they live there. On to the next topic that we're going to be talking about, it's archetypes. So, in the archetype found in the Joy Luck Club is that immigrants go through emotional turmoil once they come. And this is through the means of culture shock. So an archetype present in the Joy Luck Club is the portrayal of the idea that immigrants will come to new lands, find themselves having trouble to adapt to new customs. Furthermore, a classic family drama trope of this sort is that children and parents find themselves fighting over which customs of which land the child should be practicing or rather have a closer preference to. On to the next topic, imagery and figurative language. So, the imagery found in the Joy Luck Club was very descriptive, yet it was quite concise. The language used by the author helps to really make the book come alive. The personification and hyperbole present in the book also help to drive the story home. All in all, it helps in setting the tone for the book and does a good job in placing the reader in the shoes of the character, which allows them to empathize with the struggles they go through and the success they face. Rhetorical languages and devices is the next topic. So, the rhetorical devices used in the Joy Luck Club, well, there was a lot of them, but the book does a good job of using rhetoric to help illustrate its point. But the most frequent and well done devices were anecdotes, flashbacks, and foreshadowing. Often, these three devices were found together in the book, especially in the recollection of the accounts of the characters. Flashbacks would help to set the tone of the preceding anecdote, which would have a moral or a clue key in foreshadowing major events and decisions made later on in the book by other key characters. The next topic that I'll be talking about is style of writing. So the style of writing in the Joy Luck Club was very disorganized and there were several sub-stories present. The writing style constantly jumps between character stories, making it confusing at times to follow along, and it does make it difficult to help make sense of the plot. The diction used in the book helps to aim the book primarily at an immigrant audience of Eastern Asian descent. Whether this audience be new arrivals or first, second, third, and so on generation immigrants, it is all the same. The narrative point of view is first
Joy
person, which helps
Luck
the reader
Club
to get to know
is
the
a family
thoughts of the
drama that
characters,
portrays the
which
various
helps to create a
conflicts
stronger
that
emotional
occur
attachment that the
between
reader
mothers
has
and
to
their
that
daughters.
character.
So, on one hand, there is a hindrance between the mother and daughter relationship, but on the other hand, the readers are taken into a speechless past where every second seems like a tragedy. The tragedy that is being referred to are the many hardships that the mothers have had to face in their marriages back home in China. To truly find their depth in what could be referred to as an ideal marriage, these mothers travel to the US to find better lives for themselves. The intended audience for this novel is anyone with Chinese descent or a strict household that has immigrated to the States to find a better life for themselves and overcome all the hardships that they have had to encounter. In specific, this novel specifically targets females. Su Yanwu is the mother of Jing Mei, who abandoned her twin baby girls in a war-torn China. She raises her current daughter in a very strict and forced way where her daughter feels like she is nothing but a mere robot in front of her mother's eyes. However, it can be seen that Suyan, despite her stern way, loves her daughter very much and thinks of Jing Mei as her beacon of hope. It is revealed in the book that even if Suyan seems like she has no loving emotion, she does indeed miss her twin baby girls and has always been supporting Jung Mei quietly behind the scenes. She wants Jung Mei to live a much better life than she has. Linda Jung, the mother of Waverly, faces a very distraught past, where two matchmakers stepped out of their lane to venture into the home of a young Linda Jung. This leads to a series of unfortunate events that Linda Jung had to encounter. Right there and then, her parents started treating her differently, as if she was not part of their family anymore. Perhaps they were preparing her to head into the house of her soon-to-be husband, Taian Yu. As the story develops, she becomes more and more clever. She finds unique ways to escape from her marriage. In fact, she uses one of her dreams to inform her mother-in-law that the marriage candle blew out and that Taian Yu will die if this marriage continues. She also chooses the perfect day to tell her mother-in-law all of this, as it was a very auspicious day. Overall, she is a very interesting character from start to finish, as she has a very competitive nature. She would always brag about the extraordinary achievements of her daughter to the many others in the world. Perhaps this is what led to the conflict between her and her daughter.
In America, I will have a daughter just like me, but over there, nobody will say her worth is measured by the loudness of her husband's belch. Over there, nobody will look down on her because I will make her speak only perfect American English. This passage represents the hope that the woman has for her daughter for when she goes to America. The woman says that she will do everything in her power to make her daughter strong and independent so that nobody will ever look down on her. This shows the struggles the woman herself must have gone through in her past as she wants her daughter to be like her but have a brighter future. Because I was promised to the Hungs' son for marriage, my own family began treating me as if I belonged to somebody else. My mother would say to me when the rice bowl went up to my face too many times, "Look how much Hung Tai's daughter can eat." This passage represents the recurring theme of feminism and shows tradition, which states that women belong to their husbands' families. This is displayed through the quote by calling the girl who was having a meal and referring to her as Hung Tai's daughter when they observe her eating habits. This shows cultural tradition, as in some cultures women are not as appreciated as men. Your mother was a very strong woman, a good mother. She loved you very much, more than her own life, and that's why you can understand why a mother like this could never forget her other daughters. She knew they were alive, and before she died, she wanted to find her daughters in China. This passage represents a mother's undying love for her children. It shows she will always love her children no matter what, even if she doesn't know if they are alive or dead. The mother had wanted to find her daughters and had made that her life mission without knowing whether or not she will ever find them. Since the mother had such a close connection to her daughters, her love for them never did really die, which is what made her such a good mother. America was where all my mother's hopes lay. She had come here in 1949 after losing everything in China, her mother and father, her family home, her first husband, and 2 daughters, twin baby girls. But she never looked back with regret. There were so many ways for things to get better. This passage represents the hopes and opportunities that await for the mother in America even after having lost everything in China. The mother had to flee from her country due to an impending war in which she thought that she would surely be killed in. She did her best to bring with her who she could, but when situations proved dire, she ultimately had to make a decision wherein she prized her own children over her of having to abandon them in hopes someone else could provide them with the life she never could. Once the threat of war was gone, the mother was unable to go back to her family and had instead gone to America. Once there, she was faced with a brand new challenge, culture shock. Adapting to the American life proved difficult for her, being born and raised in a country with practices and customs that differed from the ones found in America. She did not let this wear her down, however, as she went on to push through these struggles and challenges she faced and ultimately ended up founding the Joy Luck Club, where she could provide an outlet for other women to voice their hardships as well. This shows how the mother always kept her chin up and pushed through even when it could have been easier to give up. The Joy Luck Club is both sweeping and intimate, a lovely evocation of changing cultures and enduring family ties. Admirers of the best-selling novel will be delighted by the graceful way it has been transferred to the screen. Those unfamiliar with the book will simply appreciate a stirring, many-sided fable, one that is exceptionally well told. The New York Times. Amy Tan's first novel, The Joy Luck Club, is a touching, funny, sad, insightful, and artfully constructed group portrait of 4 mother-daughter relationships that endure not only a generation gap, but the more unbridgeable gap between 2 cultures. Classic review from The Monitor. Intensely poetic, startlingly imaginative, and moving. This remarkable book will speak to many women, mothers, and grown daughters about the persistent tension and powerful bonds between generations and cultures. Publishers Weekly.